Well, the music can only mean one thing. We're talking AFC football, the AFC side of things. Last time we talked about the NFC, so today we're going to talk about the. Last time we talked about the NFC, excuse me. So we're going to talk about the AFC today. And as always, joining me, Rabindra. What's going on, buddy? Hello? Hello? Hello?
And definitely prepared now that the season's here, pretty much, to discuss what we think is gonna happen, right?
Sorry about that. A
Yeah,
little technical
yeah.
snafu there. It's okay.
Apologize
It's
about
okay.
that.
No problem. No problem. I was just saying that you're on with us, and I was just asking you how you're doing. What's going on?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So didn't miss. Okay, so yeah, so we have ourselves here a AFC preview show, and let's talk about the AFC, man. I mean, we did. There's one football game under, so
Yep,
the season has played, and the season has started, I should say. And yeah, man, let's take a look at the AFC. Let's start the AFC East, man. I know your team is in the AFC East,
yep.
so let's get talking about the team that kind of dismantled the defending Super Bowl champions on Thursday night, the Buffalo Bills. I mean,
Yeah, we got to start with them.
yeah, I mean they just look like they're the not only the class of this division, but the class of the AFC. What are your thoughts on the Bills?
Uh, yeah, I would definitely say, like, as I pretty much just scour the whole AFC, it's hard to not really like put them, the Bills, up at the top in terms of overall team compilation, and just being able, I would say, or being ready to like truly contend. So definitely got to start, I would say, in the AFC East. So talking about the Bills, they're definitely the best team in that division, hands down. Josh Allen looks like Josh Allen from this well, not last, but this first game that we saw, right? He already looks like he's ready to like make a statement this year, or really make that push this year. They're definitely favorites to me to get to the Super Bowl. Just off of the strength of what we've seen last year and what could potentially come this year, and especially with the addition of Von Miller, on their defense. I'm pretty sure this game that we just saw, Von Miller obviously had some inside edge. He just played with that team, right?
Yeah.
Just took if anything that part out of them. So it's easy. It was probably an easier matchup than we expected. I can say it was probably easier, a bit easier for the Bills that, this game. I personally thought it was going to be way more of a shootout, overall. But the Bills really showed us something in this first game, to really
Yeah.
pay attention to. So, with them, there's only so much I can say besides just saying, I very much feel that they're obviously a contender. The rest of the division, however, I can say it's just pretty much 50-50 on these guys. Even the Jets, even though they are, I would say, still the worst team in the division, as much as I love them. But, I personally think the Jets could definitely have a lot of sleeping power this year, you know, so, they could definitely, upset some weeks. But other than that, the Dolphins definitely look pretty good with the addition of Tyreek Hill. That's one thing that's actually pretty interesting. I just wanted to bring up in terms of discussing the AFC East. You
Well,
know,
yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail right on the head with Von Miller.
yeah,
I think he's gonna be like I think in that game against Kansas City, like, they kind of lacked a leader on defense, and I think that's what he's gonna bring. Like some
definitely.
some leadership on if he stays healthy, of course, because
hmm
he did get injured last year,
Yeah,
but well, not last year, but he's had his injury problems. Um, just looking at the Buffalo Bills, yeah, I mean they're I mean Josh Allen, I mean they're stacked. They're stacked on offense, especially with I mean we all know about Stephon Diggs, but the receiver Gabe Davis. I think
yeah,
he's
he's
gonna
stepped up.
yeah.
He's definitely stepped up. I mean, I'll be honest. He had this big game in the playoffs that last game, right?
Yeah.
And obviously we both play fantasy, and I'm seeing guys take him. I'm not saying that I necessarily was like completely trying to stay away from him, but I mean, like I said, I see him, improving, getting more of a larger role. Um, I wouldn't necessarily. I'll beg to differ. I wouldn't necessarily say the Bills are stacked, but they have Josh Allen, right?
Yeah.
Like Josh Allen is probably the best quarterback in the league. Is very much arguable, right, at this point. So I look at the other pieces. Like, yeah, Stephon Diggs is great. He's always been I would say just a consistent, solid number one option. Yeah, and Gabe Davis definitely looks pretty good too. Otherwise, I mean, I think his receiving core really is all right after Diggs. But then, I think about the running backs too. Like the running backs are kind of, to me, so okay. So, I wouldn't necessarily say they're stacked. However, I think overall, and especially with the defense coupled with like Josh Allen, then it's a great just combination for them. And especially like you said, Von Miller. Just I didn't really think too much about it until I saw the game last night, and
Yeah.
then I saw how much of a difference he can make. I really didn't think Matthew Stafford was gonna. I mean, I know he could throw picks, but it was a lot of picks last night.
Yeah, like I think the one thing that
I mean, the other night. Sorry.
the the commentators were talking about was that neither of these teams really played in preseason.
Mm.
That the starters didn't really play that much in preseason. I think it showed for the Rams.
Oh hell!
That,
Oh yeah, for sure,
yeah.
and especially Cam Akers.
Oh yeah. What a. I mean, he has fantasy bust. I mean, everybody's
All
picking
over him,
all over him.
yeah, all over him.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
just looking at. I mean, I think they'll get their groove. They'll find their groove. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, they'll get the groove. Maybe OBJ resigns with them when he's ready to
he's
play
good.
again. So
Yeah,
yeah, so I mean, yeah, I think they'll be fine. I'm not worried about the Rams, having a bad season. I think they're just
yeah, yeah. Just
they
first
just
game.
yeah, just first game, just get it
Yeah,
out of the way. Defending chance, but move away from the
the
Bills for a
game.
minute. Talk about the
Yeah,
rest of that division.
yeah,
Miami made a move, like
yeah,
kind of
man.
a really big move with getting Tyreek Hill, and it was Tyreek Hill was between he had, according to the reports,
Yes.
he had two options: the Jets or the Dolphins,
Mm-hmm.
and he obviously picked the Dolphins.
Yeah.
But I mean that's a pretty good move. He's a pretty big receiver. I mean, you can make the case he's probably maybe behind Stephon Diggs, maybe 1 and 1A as the receivers in that division.
Yeah, I personally would put at least fantasy value wise, and as well as I guess I could say overall, I would put Tyreek Hill at the top.
Okay,
And
yeah.
over Diggs. Yeah.
Hmm.
Like just in terms of just what talent level, everything, like I would put him there. Oh, just right above. You can say 1A, 1B. I would personally put him at 1. But then like with Tyreek Hill in that addition, as we touch on it, it really does help Tua a lot. I really do believe in Tua. Now he has a decent tight end, and he has, you know, two solid, I would say, options to throw to along with the rest of his, staff. But Waddle is also,
Yeah. Hmm.
man. I mean, let's not forget about Jalen Waddle. So he has Tyreek Hill and he has Jalen Waddle. And Jalen Waddle could easily be like that possession guy, as well as still come in and probably come for a big play here and there too, right? They're all not going to go to Tyreek Hill. If anything, it allows to really like spread the ball, but also have multiple like real threats, right? So this is the first season, because I don't think this is what Tua's third season, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it
So if this
is.
is
Yeah.
Tua's third season, which is usually an uptick season, especially for a starting quarterback, one heavily invested in, and now he has Tyreek Hill. This is something that we definitely should be paying attention to. It's very possible that the Dolphins, they're not gonna. I don't think the Dolphins are necessarily gonna probably win as many games as Buffalo, but they might not be that far behind. It's very
Yeah.
possible.
I definitely think the Dolphins are in the playoff conversation in the AFC.
Yeah,
I
in the
think they'll
city,
definitely
yeah,
be, yeah.
for
But
sure.
yeah, and then I think to me though, Tua is the question mark.
he's like the total
Yeah,
X factor. Because at the
yeah,
end of the day, if Tua, even if Tua is like, even if Tua is like okay, good, right? Like meaning slightly above average, that should be really good for them with the staff, like with the players that he has, right? But
yeah. Mhm.
he has, I personally think, players that could really put him to that upper echelon, to that next level. Especially if he's a quarterback that could move around on his feet, right? So
Yeah,
it's a there's a lot here that can could
I, f-
really like spark for the Miami Dolphins here
I,
with
f-
this
I
season.
forget. I forget he had. I remember him getting injured at Alabama.
Hmm.
Was it it was a leg injury, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's check. We do have
I
the
think it was.
internets.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's check. I can
I think
easily.
it was, and it was in the championship game, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe I'm wrong about that. But I remember him injuring his
You
leg.
might be right.
Yeah. So maybe I'm hoping that maybe he's just fully healthy now, to the point where Miami can be a contender, and make that AFC even more stacked, because the AFC is a lot more stacked than the NFC. Let's
Mm.
be. I mean, if we're being honest.
As we yeah, as
Yeah.
as we go through, I'll determine. I can't say I can't.
Yeah.
I've officially seen
Then
that, but maybe you're
let's.
right. Like I can tell from what I see here with Tua, they said he suffered a dislocated hip and posterior wall fracture in Mississippi State.
Okay. So yeah. So that was just a regular season game then for them.
Yeah,
Was in the champ.
it
Yeah.
was well, let me see, because they start talking about the injury in depth here. So let me
Yeah. But the one like the yeah. I mean, I hope he's fully healthy and he can get, because he has two weapons, and he's got the tight end Gasecki, who's I think is a little underrated, but
Yeah, he's
yeah,
definitely a bit
yeah,
underrated. That's why I mentioned him, or at least I didn't say his
yeah,
name, but they
yeah.
have that's why I said they have a decent tight end. And then yeah, I got to say he's now that you mentioned his injury history, I
Mhm.
mean, which I have obviously, in the back of my mind felt, but he definitely has an injury history in college mostly. Like
Yeah,
which with the was what we just mentioned. Like even I'm looking here, like there's like an injury almost like every couple of months in
yeah.
college. so
But
so
I
who
mean,
knows? I mean, I just I would only
mhm.
hope it's a different course of events for him in the NFL overall, right? And especially it would be a shame, especially if he has Tyreek Hill and Waddle, like for him to just not be able to play. But I only feel as if he does, this should be a big year for Tua. That's just my hunch. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think we're both in. I think it's a consensus that we think Miami will be a good team, but I'm
Yeah.
not showing my hand just as yet if I think they'll be a
Yeah.
playoff team.
Yeah.
Um, and the other two teams in the division, we got the New England Patriots
Mhm.
and of course the New York Jets. And I
Yeah.
mean, let's be real with the Jets for a minute. The Jets did get some good players.
Yeah, no, look, the Jets made, and me as I'm a big Jets fan for those who may not know. And they definitely made improvements. I personally think on both sides of the ball, especially in the draft and whatever obviously they could otherwise free agency and whatever. One thing that did hurt, and as a Jets fan, it hurts to consistently see is injuries and preseason or like before the season starts.
Yeah.
And
So
we don't have our
yeah,
quarterback for
yeah.
these first few weeks, which is another huge blow. And as well as I know we lost one of our top offensive linemen early on. So, that was one thing that the Jets really needed to improve this year, and that was the offensive line. I was really excited about, what was to come this year based on who we were going to have in front of our quarterback. But that easily changes everything when you're already a team that's trying to just make a name for yourself at this point, right? So, you know, so I can't say I could, I expect too much from the Jets, but like I said earlier, I really think they can't upset. They have the power to upset. They definitely have some players and young players on their team that can really get things going, and I think this is still a year that they can just kind of pick up some real chemistry. I'm only hoping they could be an 8 and 9 team this year, at best,
Well,
right?
I mean, I gotta call out. I don't know who made the NFL schedule, who made the
Mm-hmm.
Jets, who made the schedule, but I mean. the Jets have a very tough schedule.
Yeah, man, I saw
Yeah,
that too. So that's why I said like at best, I only hope they could pull out a eight and nine.
I don't know who
Like,
made their schedule, but
yeah,
I
it's so
mean,
messed up.
yeah, I
And
mean,
like because I've seen and I've seen it as I've been playing and setting up my fantasy team, so I'm looking at other team schedules. Like I look at like the Philadelphia Eagles, man. I think they have one of the easier schedules, like which is I know we're not talking NFC, but I just bring them up because they're just kind of
yeah.
here in the depth chart. So it's like it's crazy because the Jets obviously haven't been that good in a while. Like we gotta lighten up on them, man.
So, just for those of you who don't know, it'll be Joe Flacco for like the first,
4 weeks.
for the first four, three to
Yeah,
four
like
weeks.
three
Yeah,
weeks. I'm only hoping he comes back. But from my last report, or the last report I read, I saw that Wilson should be out the first 4 weeks. So you know, but enough of the Jets. I'm still
yeah.
very much excited for them this season, though. But just I don't expect too much. The
I think
Patriots can never count them out. So
I think there'll be an exciting team too. I don't think you're going to be rollovers. Is what
yeah, no,
I
the Jets.
yeah.
I agree with you 100%. And
Mhm.
not just saying that because I'm a Jets fan. They're definitely not going to be rollovers. Don't be going here every week. Ultimately picking them to lose, or even that they won't break spreads because they
Yeah,
probably will break your spread.
yeah. I think
Yeah,
they'll definitely surprise
yeah.
a
No, the
lot.
p- the, the potential offensive firepower is somewhat there. Like I very much believe in Elijah Moore. I very much believe in the guy that they drafted, and as well as they still have Corey Davis. I don't. I'm not saying he's like completely done. I still think he's a decent wide receiver, and
Oh,
this is probably the best tight end tandem that the Jets have ever had.
yes,
Like they
yes.
have Tyler Conklin and they have C.J. Udoma, right?
Uzama, yeah, yeah,
Uzama, sorry.
yeah,
Uzama. So this I'm telling like by the way, as long as I've been a Jets fan, this is literally the best the best set of tight ends I've seen the
yeah.
Jets have.
I kind of I like their backfield also.
Yeah, like the running backs aren't
Yeah.
bad. They got a top running rookie in the draft,
Brees Hall,
along with
Bree,
Michael Carter. Michael Carter
yeah,
really still isn't bad. So, I very much do believe in the team. It's just, obviously even still, the offensive line is gonna be a big problem. If they can't really protect the quarterback or if they can't, give him enough time, they're not gonna be able to execute as well. But and then just to touch on the Patriots, like I was saying, you can never really count Bill Belichick out. The team is nowhere near his usual standards though, but I wouldn't, I can say that they could easily be on the other side of like maybe being 9-8,
yeah.
instead of
Well,
eight
I
and
mean,
nine.
Patriots were a playoff team last year. They got
Yeah,
demolished by I believe it was, yeah, by Buffalo
yeah,
last year in that first round game, the wild card round.
yeah.
So I mean, they had their moments. Like they were looking like. I mean, I remember watching NFL Network, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Patriots are going back to the Patriots are back. The Patriots are going to the Super Bowl." At one point in last season, and then they barely made it. Well, they made a wild card, so that's nothing to sneeze about. But then there is the way they got embarrassed. So does Mac Jones? I mean, I just even I mean they always had Tom Brady. They always had a good defense, but they never had like big superstar position players that I can remember. The only one I remember is Randy Moss.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But
I
yeah,
was just gonna mention. I mean, no, they had some good. They had some guys that were good for them at their time. I wouldn't say they were ultimately, the biggest though. Yeah, Randy Moss was probably like the biggest superstar
and they did have
besides
Gronk
Tom Brady, right?
and Gronk, maybe Gronk
Right,
as
and
well.
Gronk, of
Yeah,
course, yes.
yeah,
How are we gonna forget Gronk, right?
yeah, of
So
course.
yeah, and so those were two other positions. Their running backs they
Yeah,
never really needed the best running backs. Like I remember when the Patriots at one point they had like Garrett Blunt, they
yeah,
had
I remember. Yeah,
they had all these different. If anything, their most successful running back has been their pass catching running back all these years, which was James White. Like James White was Bill Belichick's
like well,
guy, right?
now that I think about it,
So
I can name more receivers like guys like Wes Welker that were on that
yeah, that's
team.
what I'm saying. Wes Welker,
Yeah,
Edelman,
Edelman. Yeah,
these and but see,
yeah.
one thing I've always just from watching Bill Belichick as an opponent all these years and watching like how he compiles his team, he basically kind of does certain things. So like one thing I noticed is he always makes sure he has one strong possession wide receiver next to one strong deep threat. right?
Yeah,
Which is sounds kind of typical and common when you break it down, but that's not how all teams necessarily construct themselves. Like he still makes sure he basically has one guy he can rely on in a sense under the blanket, couple of yards, quick possessions, quick dump offs, and then he has one guy that he can rely on deep. And then obviously he loves the two tight end sets. So like, and then this year he still has Hunter Henry and Jonu Smith. Like those are his
yeah,
tight ends, right?
yeah.
Let's not forget, like these guys were decent tight ends on previous teams beforehand, right?
And
So
I do like Ramondre Stevens as well.
yes, and that's what
Yeah,
I was just gonna
yeah,
mention him too, because if you look at Damian Harris last year, like Damian Harris was pretty good. Like he was just pretty good up and down runner. He actually, I think, scored like 12 touchdowns, I think, or something last year on the ground, right? And
yeah,
just running for just about 1,000 yards. Doesn't catch anything though, right? So then you think about who's going to be doing that, and they have the same back that you just mentioned, Stevenson,
yeah,
who I think they're going to be trying to implement for like that James White role, because that James White role was big for Belichick. It's big for that whole system. So that's one guy to definitely keep your eye out on, like to look for, because I think with any real success, they're gonna need a dump off running back. I think it's gonna end up being him. I mean, they also have Ty Montgomery. They mentioned him, I guess, based off of veteran, experience, but I think Stevenson might end up being that guy. So, but then
yeah,
if you look at the rest of their roster, like they have Devontae Parker, Jacoby Myers, and Nelson Aguilar, and to like round out the receiving core. So they're very much just a middle of the pack team at best. But I'm pretty sure Bill Belichick could make them a little bit better,
yeah.
you know.
Like uh,
So
I
I'm
mean,
I'm not sure how great the defense is this year, but from my understanding, New England's defense is still solid. Like not the best, but
hey,
solid.
I think like the Dolphins, they'll be in the playoff race as well.
Yeah,
But
it's harder for
I
me to pick the
yeah,
Patriots to be in there though.
yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
just
so let's just so
move
we
on.
get a little AFC East there.
Yeah,
Let's move to the. Let's go. Let's see. Northwest. Let's go to the North.
cool.
AFC North, home of the defending AFC champions, I should say,
Hmm.
Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm gonna say I don't think I'm gonna give my playoff prediction here for this division.
Mm.
I don't think the Bengals are winning the AFC North.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Uh,
that's very
yeah,
it's that's not a bad pick or like overall, I would say assessment. Yeah, it's very possible it's either going to, I mean, for this division it'll either be the Ravens or the Bengals in my eyes. Won't be the
yeah,
Browns, won't be the Steelers. Um, you know, like the Steelers and the Browns just got too much going on in terms of their quarterback situation. So they might be able to play, games and, compete in a sense, but I don't think, because of their quarterback situations for both teams, I don't think they're gonna really be that effective. So it really just comes down to, like, if there's any two playoff teams in this division, in my eyes, it's really just the Ravens and the Bengals. Now, who do I think is gonna be better? That's still a little bit harder to say. Obviously, Joe Burrow just made it to the Super Bowl, so we can't really. I mean, I'm not gonna say that he's ultimately gonna go like again, like right away, next year. That's still a bit
oh,
of bold, and I still think Lamar Jackson has a lot in his,
well,
like he still has a
there's
lot to prove.
there's one thing that happened yesterday
Yeah.
that is why I'm tipping it to Ravens. And the
Mm.
reason I'm going with the Ravens is because they didn't give Lamar Jackson a contract, so he's playing on his like fifth year.
Yeah, basically on his final year
On
of the
his
rookie
final year.
contract. Yeah.
I've just watched it in every single sport, where when there's a guy in his free agent year, he's gonna ball out, and I think Lamar Jackson is gonna ball out. He's gonna he maybe he resigns with the Ravens, but then you look at other teams who need a quarterback,
Mm.
and I mean he's gonna drive up the price.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah, so I
definitely.
think the Ravens made a huge mistake not trying to lock this guy up. So that's the only reason I think Lamar is gonna ball out this year, and he's gonna. That's the reason I think the Baltimore Ravens are winning this
Mhm.
division.
That's a
That's
good.
that.
That's good. No, I mean that's a good way to base it. In the end of the day, yeah. No, I
And
hear you on that for sure. I very much do believe in, especially great players when they're playing on a contract year. Um, I am surprised that the Ravens didn't lock him up. or like give him some sort of extension or whatever, however that works. But it gives us as fans and fantasy players a little more assurance of what might
Yeah.
happen with Lamar Jackson this
Yeah.
year, right? But then obviously barring injury, that's one thing we still have to remember. So because he does put himself on the floor, like whenever honestly, whenever I see Lamar Jackson, I see basically like a slightly better, well, not slightly, truly better version of like RG3. Let's not forget about RG3, right?
Oh yeah, of course,
And
yes.
then and the reason why is like they're very much similar build, like like in terms of like the linkier quarterback, and as well as being linkier, quicker, and then therefore faster. They could be mobile and run, right? But RG3 obviously reminds me of a shortened like career and injuries and all that. So I'm not saying that necessarily happened to Lamar Jackson. However, he is very much utilized. Like when you look at Baltimore's offense. I mean, he is like their main guy, right? So I mean, I'm not even talking about just being their quarterback. Like he's like their just best scoring option, right? Like besides maybe like Mark Andrews, right? Who's their top wideout? That's been the consistent issue with Baltimore every year. Who does Lamar Jackson throw to, right?
Yeah.
So like that's one thing that this has always been a thing for me, that every year. So I see all these people in media, sports media, essentially talking up Baltimore at this point, um too. But then like I said, I look at his team, like his best wideout is Rashad Bateman. I'm not saying Rashad Bateman's bad, right? But he's not like Stephon Diggs, right? So we have Rashad Bateman, we have Devin Duvernay, and James Proch. If I'm saying his name right, I've never said
Yeah,
his name.
I was watching, yeah, watching. I mean, Duvernay looks like he's their big
He say
yeah,
they're better
he's gonna be
option.
their, yeah, he's their no gonna be their number one receiver.
Yeah,
And let's not forget running back J.K. Dobbins.
yeah. Definitely didn't forget
Yeah.
him. I've been looking at him too because I know he's questionable. I think for this first week.
Yeah.
But they said he looks like he's favorable to play. But then behind Dobbins, they have Mike Davis, Kenyon Drake. A little decent depth there at running back. But we all know Lamar Jackson is going to be running a lot,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So so like when I like so as I look at this team again this year, unless unless they have like a super stellar like offensive line to maybe just kind of block out for Lamar and whoever decides to run, they are going to be a bit more. They're always going to be run heavy. Lamar is not going to throw for a ton of yards or even like a ton of touchdowns. He might in a contract year maybe, but then again, it's about who he's throwing to and how good his receivers are. So that's always one thing still to this year, and always one thing that's kind of been, you can say, like really something that's had me hold the Ravens back behind other teams potentially in the AFC. Especially when we're going to talk about some other ones that I think could make the playoffs. So it's hard for me to say, in all honesty, who I think is going to come out as the top team in this division, because I really think it's going to be neck and neck between the Bengals and the Ravens. So,
Well,
you know,
you mentioned offensive line, and I think just getting back to the Bengals for a minute.
hmm
I think that was their one Achilles heel last
hmm
season was their line. I think they did make some improvements on their offensive line.
I would only
Um,
hope, yeah, because
yeah,
Burrow, even with his success, he got sacked a lot. I think last year, from my
yeah,
understanding.
no, he did, and I mean you saw it in the Super Bowl and that
hmm
last drive, Aaron Donald just just ran through that offensive line. So,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
yeah, so you're looking. I mean, what they've got pieces at the keep. They've got Burrow, they've got T. Higgins, Jamar Chase
Yeah,
at wide
definitely.
receiver, like Joe Mixon back there. So
Yeah.
yeah, they've got the offensive pieces, and I would hope their defense is a little bit better this year
Yeah.
for the Cincinnati
That's
Bengals.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
one thing. Like the Bengals defense is gonna be the X factor for me, besides a slight uptick in their offensive line, if that's the case. And then for the Ravens, like the real X factor or deciding factor for me is gonna be, how well Lamar throws, in a sense. Because that's gonna, because see, what the reason why I'm bringing it up is because year after year, and especially after like he broke out, obviously other teams are going to be paying a different kind of attention to him. And it's all based on how they play, right? So then now they watch Baltimore and they see how they utilize Lamar Jackson. Now these teams are going to try and like basically stop that. And essentially, I bring it up because it's like kind of a one way that Baltimore plays, right?
Yeah.
Like they can't really, at least with if the wide receiver is pretty much the same state, then he's gonna have to do the same things like to be successful.
Yeah.
And then if he has to do the same things to be successful, it's gonna be easier to stop. So that's just just my
Yeah.
logic on that.
I definitely think it'll be a two-team race
Yeah, for
in
sure though, for
yeah
sure.
in the North, and just to touch on Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, of course, uh, lost Big Ben. I don't think that was, to be honest, I don't think that was the worst thing that could have happened for them, because Big Ben just looked
Yeah, he
done.
was aging. He was
Yeah,
aging.
he just looked done last season, and then
Yeah,
had like that's always the thing in any sport. How do you get rid of your aging superstar?
yeah,
So but yeah, so they did draft Kenny Pickett. I believe that's, yeah, Kenny Pickett in
yeah.
the
Do we
first
think? Do
round.
we think he's
Yeah.
gonna come in this year though?
I I I
Mm,
I've always liked Mitch Trubisky. I always think he's like, this is the perfect system for him now. I
okay,
think Pittsburgh has got to go back to, like, okay, well, we got to be a defensive football team.
defensive team
Yeah,
and a running team,
exactly.
and
And
then I mean, the not with Najee Harris, they do have a good back there, but I've also heard or have a bit of understanding that their offensive line is going to be a bit more on the weaker side this year.
yeah,
And then that's one thing. I'll be honest, that's one thing that's kind of kept me away from even drafting Najee Harris. So that's one thing. If they're going to be a run heavy team, though, they still have to make sure they have a solid line.
mhm.
We all know how important that is. So
Well, that is part of the reason why I like Trubisky, but I think Cincinnati and Baltimore will be much better than them. I think at some
yeah,
point, I think maybe once I think Trubisky, once they're eliminated. So let's say maybe week 14, 15, when they're not in the playoff race anymore. I think that's when you may see Kenny Pickett. So yeah, to answer your question, I do think you'll see him maybe at the end of this year, at the end of this season. But yeah, just looking at Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith Schuster is gone. Juju, is that
mm-hmm,
I'm
mm-hmm.
saying his name wrong, I know it. But
Just say Juju.
so yeah, Juju's gone. He's in Kansas City. So it's Deontay Johnson. Yeah, he's not a that's not a terrible. Yeah, he's a pretty decent receiver. Um, just looking at this team now, and I just think they're, unfortunately, because of the other quarterbacks in the division, and the one quarterback that won't will be suspended until week 11.
Mm,
You know, I just think they're fourth,
yeah.
because the quarterback play in this division, we won't see it fully this year, but next season, I already talked about next season, 2020. But yeah, um, yeah, but next year you'll see it. And so, I think Pittsburgh, we'll see maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers maybe have a little bit of a couple down years here, just because of the quarterback play around them.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a lot. There's still holes there that they just need to fill, or voids that basically there's improvement all around there for them. So the only thing I think that's probably just still decent intact is their defense. So
Yeah,
and then the Browns, like personally, I would put Jacoby Brissett over Trubisky. So in terms of quarterback ability right now. So excuse me.
yeah, absolutely. I
Sorry
mean,
about that.
no problem.
Yeah,
No,
but
it's the flu season is very soon, so yeah,
yeah, changing
yeah,
changing weather. But yeah, so like just to touch back, and then even on the Browns too. Like the Browns really aren't that bad, and they obviously have a great running tandem. So that running tandem can help them, throughout at least those first whatever 11 weeks or so.
yeah,
With Chubb and Hunt, you can't really go wrong as long as they're both healthy. They pretty much are solid there. So it
and
just
they
it
did
depends.
they did trade for Amari Cooper, so that's a pretty,
Yeah, that was the other.
yeah,
That was the other play. I was trying to. It
yeah,
was it's funny. Like as I was talking just now, and I was waiting for his name to pop in my head. I don't know why it wasn't popping in my head, but yes, they got Amari Cooper. So he should. He'll definitely help. So but at the same time, can't expect too much from them. And if they're consistently seeing the Bengals and the Ravens, I'm pretty sure those guys are going to lose to them. So,
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
yeah, that's why I mean, next year when we're doing this show, I think the Browns will definitely be in the conversation.
for sure.
Yeah, for definitely. But I think for this year, for this season, it's a Raven Bengal division. So
Can we, before we finish though, do we really
yeah,
think Deshaun Watson is going to be playing this year though? Even after that 11 gamer? You think, what if they
I
do? You know, they're still there. I
yeah,
don't know, man. I just feel like he's just such a he just done
like
did it to
I
himself.
just
Like,
I just think the NFL should have just said we're suspending you for a year. Come back next year. Like why 11?
basically,
Yeah, why 11 games? It makes no sense.
yeah.
But
I don't
okay,
know. Yeah,
so
it's
we
weird.
move from the north. Well, let's go to the south because I think this is another one of those divisions where it's like, yeah,
Yeah, 2-2, two and
yeah.
two.
Like starting out, the defending champs, the number one seed last year, actually, the Tennessee Titans. You know,
Mm.
they were the number one seed, but they did lose. Their big receiver. They traded him away, and AJ Brown.
But you got Robert Woods.
Yeah, well, okay.
Granted, he's not AJ Brown, but
Yeah,
he's not bad.
and of course the king is back, King Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did miss. He broke his ankle last year. He broke his foot, I believe, last year. He did come back for the playoffs. In that they're well, I can believe they were they lost to the Bengals in that game with them. So I don't know. Do you think that the Titans took a step back? Is the question? Because for me, I'm gonna say I am probably I'm showing my hand again. I don't think that the Titans are winning this division. I think it's going to be the Colts, but you can't count them out because they do have one of the top five back.
Mm-hmm.
One of the you can probably say he's an all time great. Probably one of my favorite backs in the game right now, Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
So I would totally rock his jersey, just so if anybody wants to send me one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like yeah, so he's a beast. I mean, I don't know if you watch Good Morning Football. It's a show on NFL Network,
Sometimes, yeah.
and they have every Tuesday they have a segment. I forget. Oh god, Angry Runs is what it's called, and it's like uh, Derrick Henry was just like every week. Derrick Henry is
Stiff
featured
arming
on the
somebody.
stiff arming somebody and knocking them like every single week. So yeah, so like it's just But question for you: is he enough?
Well, I would say that he's definitely been enough to help them get pretty far. But also, yeah, he has had a little help when they've had AJ Brown. AJ Brown is very much different from Robert Woods, but because that's pretty much I bring it up because that's a direct replacement here, where you're replacing a guy like AJ Brown, who's like that true number one wideout. Not to say Robert Woods isn't, he definitely is, but just probably not as explosive. So I don't know if I don't know. I wouldn't like say that they are, that completely like regressed or have come, that much further down because you have a player like Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry just commands and does so much as long as he stays healthy. He's really like he's almost like a cheat code, right?
Yeah,
And Ryan Tannehill is actually, he's a pretty good quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback. He's a pretty good quarterback to have. So, like Robert Woods, besides Robert Woods, then we just got to look at like the rest of the guys that would be helping the offense, which would be Traylon Burks, Nick Westbrook, Ikine, and Austin Hooper, someone who I've
I
always kind of
think
liked at tight end. They got Austin Hooper in there now, right?
I think the
So
one thing that saves them is their division.
yeah, the division
Yeah,
definitely saves them. That's a good point.
yeah,
So which I was gonna say, like, because the Texans and the Jaguars are just not gonna really amount to much this year. Period. So I mean, the Jaguars are still like a young budding team in a sense that's trying to just get all their gears like turning. So they got to get their rookie that they was a rookie last year essentially get him going this year because they didn't get to play last year, right?
Yeah.
And as well as just the rest of their team, because like now, and then the Jaguars like best wideout is like Christian Kirk right now, right? So he's not horrible, but again, he's their number one option. So saying that these teams definitely have struggles, especially the Texans. The Texans, I personally peg the Texans as probably the worst team in the AFC at the end of the year, right? So
Yeah, I
it's
agree with
very
you.
much possible. I think that
Hmm.
I'll give the Jaguars, a slightly better edge than them, but the Texans, especially with their quarterback, just the whole situation, how everything unfolded with Watson, I just don't see them really doing much. Period. So it really just comes down to the Colts and the Titans. So I think, like you said, the division definitely helps them. Them being in this division definitely helps them versus where maybe if they were in the North for some reason or something, and now they got to battle with the Bengals and the Ravens that we just talked about, right? So they have a bit of an easier path to potentially at least getting like a wild card spot or something. Um, you know,
Yeah, absolutely. Like
yeah,
I think we've said enough about the Texans and the Jaguars to be honest. Like for the
yeah, that's
Jaguars,
it. That's all we
it's
have to say.
just yeah,
Yeah,
it's just basically like Trevor Lawrence. Let see him continue to progress,
yeah,
and then Houston's probably going to be the worst team in football. So I don't
yeah,
think we don't really need to talk much more about them. But
yeah.
then we've mentioned the Titans. Let's talk about the Colts for a minute.
Yeah, Colts are actually, if you ask me, the
Yeah.
most interesting team in this division.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, because now they added Matt Ryan, which I think is a perfect fit for them versus Wentz, right? Last year,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Matt Ryan is still Matt Ryan still has a lot left. Let's not forget the caliber of quarterback in a sense that he is. Where he was drafted early in his career. So Matt Ryan is definitely has only shown some real consistency in that position. I mean, obviously maybe like some other quarterbacks, you might maybe we all remember quarterback kind of like Brett Favre. High reward, high risk kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
situation. You know what I mean? Matt Ryan may have kind of entered that frame at that point in his career at this point, maybe a bit, but he's a lot better of an option under center for them, and especially with guys like Michael Pittman, players that they really want to like really get going. Like I
Yeah.
think Matt Ryan's going to really make a big splash with the
Well,
Colts, and the Colts still have a good defense. So, and let's not forget about Jonathan Taylor, right?
of course.
Jonathan Taylor's probably just as effective, or just as strong of a running back option as Derrick Henry at this point.
I mean,
So,
he was the number one fantasy choice
yep,
by like
last
everybody.
year, yep.
Every draft that I was in, number one pick,
Yep.
number one pick.
If Christian McCaffrey was healthy, that would have been different. But yeah, he's definitely number one. So you can't knock him. You got to give him his roses. So at the end of the day, Jonathan Taylor also too very big part of that team and a very big crutch for Matt Ryan, because I can't remember when it was the last time Matt Ryan had such a like dominant running back behind him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. So like
The only
so
player I could think of that it was ever like that you made that point. The only player I could think of that was ever as dominant with Matt Ryan, probably Julio Jones. Like that he
yeah,
had
and that's there you
that
go. And
caliber.
it's another
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, another wideout. So
yeah.
this is gonna be especially for where Matt Ryan is in his career, this is gonna be a huge help, not only for the team, but for him and just for everyone's like success on that team. You know?
And just a name you mentioned before, I definitely think Michael Pittman takes that next step.
Yeah, I really do
And
too.
yeah, because he's got a better quarterback.
Yeah,
He
much, much better.
had a good year last year with Carson Wentz. I mean, what's he going to do with
Exactly.
Matt
Right?
Ryan?
That's how you gotta think about it,
Yeah.
So I mean, and then outside, like I'll be honest, I don't know much about Alec Pierce. I don't know, much about him. He's basically, from what I see on the depth chart, he's listed right behind Pittman as the number two. And then they have Paris Campbell, Mo Alley Cox, the tight
Yeah.
end.
Mo,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I
Mhm.
like Mo Alley Cox.
Yeah.
So, I personally think this team definitely has the tools to be the division winner if it isn't the Titans. So I would personally peg them to win this division.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yes, I mean, you know, I think that's where the two teams are going to be, and I think for some reason I just feel like the Texans are going to be historically bad. But I really
This is
do.
gonna be like the franchise. This is gonna be like the year that when they started,
Yeah.
like when they
Because
first came
yeah.
in like 2000 or 2001,
Yeah.
whatever that year
I
was.
mean, Davis Mills is their quarterback. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm
yeah, I
sorry.
mean,
It's just they
yeah.
got too many problems. Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
tough.
I mean, we play in a two quarterback league, right? And you have to have at least three quarterbacks as of the bye weeks. I would still not pick
Still
Davis
not.
Mills.
Yeah, I
I would,
still would not.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree 100,
like,
percent my man. I'm not using
like
him.
in a bind. If like it was like he was like the last person, like the last quarterback available. I would say no. I'll hope somebody gets injured and not get their back. Yeah, I just think
Uh,
they're gonna be historically bad. So moving on from the South, let's move on to the beast,
yes,
the
this is
beast
the
of
beast.
the
This is
beast
the
of
beast.
the beast of the AFC West. That's gonna be. I mean, where do you start with this? I
Yo,
mean, who do you start with? I mean, you could start with really any team,
really.
but I mean, I guess let's start with and you can't even say this was the biggest move because every team made like a pretty sneaky big move that will that's kind of like okay. And then when you heard the move, like oh okay, so he went to the AFC West. Oh, this division is gonna be crazy. Let's start with the Denver Broncos, and
Okay.
of course their roster was good. They just never had the quarterback. Now they've got the quarterback, and I think you're gonna see all the potential of all the pieces they've got. They've got two good running backs in Javante Williams and Melvin Gordon, and then their receiving core is pretty good. And of course, we haven't even said his name yet. Russell Wilson,
Yeah.
future Hall of Famer. Going to be there. He probably has at least good 3 4 good years left in him.
Hmm.
So I mean, this team, I mean, and their defense. I remember a game last season where they just went into Dallas and spanked the Cowboys, and they were winning that game. They beat the forget who the quarterback was last year. Was it Drew Lock? Was he the quarterback? I
I
believe he
think they
was.
might have had Bridgewater.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think actually. Yeah, I mean I know
but
Locke was there, but I
I remember. Yeah, I
feel
remember
like
that.
Bridgewater might have been playing for the Broncos last year. Or am I wrong?
I believe you. I think. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think. I remember that game where they went into Dallas and they just spanked the
yeah,
Cowboys, and I was like, this team is just. I mean, just watching them last year, they're a quarterback away, and just watching this team now, they got their quarterback. They're going to be, to me, you can't say I don't know who's the best team in this division is going to be because everybody's just so good.
yeah.
So but what are your thoughts on the Broncos?
I'm very much excited about the Broncos this year. I am excited about this division because when you really sit down and look at it, this whole division is pretty much just full of playoff teams. So, or if not potential playoff teams if they all don't make it. But it's very much possible this whole division could make it. Now,
Oh yeah,
just to touch back
absolutely,
on
yeah.
just to
Uh-huh.
touch back like on the Broncos in this division. Obviously they needed Russell Wilson. If they didn't have Russell Wilson on their roster right now, we wouldn't be talking this way. So now that they
Exactly. Yeah.
have Russell Wilson, which is obviously a huge upgrade for them over the years, and as well as having the tandem because Russell Wilson can already run himself, right? And then you already got those other running backs too, which are all they're still pretty good. One young, one a little older. Melvin Gordon still has a lot left in the tank though, right?
Yeah.
So this huge plus for them. That really opens up a lot for Russell Wilson for just throwing purposes, a lot. And then he has a decent core. Like he really does have a decent core to throw to. He did lose one wideout, uh, early. Like he lost
Yeah.
Tim Patrick.
Pat Patrick, yeah.
At first, I remember I thought it was Sutton. I was like, "Oh man, they lost Sutton," but no, it was Tim Patrick. But still, they still have Cortland Sutton, Jerry Judy, and KJ Hamler, right? And if anything, only real question mark is their tight end, but I'm sure Russell Wilson will make that work, somehow. So I very much believe in Russell Wilson, future Hall of Famer, like you said. So I think, just to start the spotlight on the AFC West, like it's perfect to kind of talk about the new addition. Because the other three teams are just about the same. They all made changes too, right? But improvements for sure. But the Broncos, I would say, made the largest improvement, right? So,
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Hmm.
so they're definitely, it's hard to say, where exactly I can peg the Broncos or where they're going to end up in this division based on everyone, so because then right after the Broncos, if I could just kind of get into the Chiefs. Like, I personally still think the Chiefs are the favorite. If I'm gonna pick one, it's hard, but I still think the Chiefs are more so the favorite for this division still. And Mahomes and company. So even with I think this division is going to be full of a lot of big games. Each one of these four teams, when they play each other, it should be a big game. You know, based on even how both teams, offenses and defensive, for all four of them, they should all be huge shootout games. So, like,
Well,
Broncos defense, if anything, is probably the best defense out of these four. The Chargers have a pretty good defense too, right? But like, this is going to be just a crazy division, man.
yo,
So
let's go back to Kansas City for a minute.
yeah.
You mentioned them. Um, okay, how do you think Tyreek Hill, them trading him away, is gonna affect them?
So at first, when I thought about it, I was like, man, this is definitely. I personally just saw it as, obviously a big hit for Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes is still Mahomes though, so
Yeah, of
I
course.
still believe in how he's gonna be able to adjust overall. And then, I look at the rest of the roster. I mean, they got Juju, like we mentioned, and then he also grabbed up, or they grabbed up, Marquise Valdez Scantling.
Yeah, from Green Bay. Yeah,
Yeah, which he really isn't that bad. He's a good wide receiver too. Not the best, but good. So he still has a decent core. He still has guys that he still has Travis Kelsey. Like, Travis Kelsey is huge. So he still has a good core of players around him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like, we're forgetting about him, of what he could
oh
do
yeah,
even as a receiving running
yeah,
back,
absolutely, yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So he has Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Juju, Valdez Scantling, Travis Kelsey, and their third wideout is this guy Sky Moore, right? And he still
Yeah,
has McCole Hardman, which I've seen him throw to tons of times,
yeah.
right?
McCall
So
Hardman was their number two last year, so
yeah, so
yeah.
and he still has McCole Hart. Yeah, so the way I see it is, I think, you know, without saying too much for later part of the podcast, I just think Mahomes is still gonna be Mahomes. And especially with this team, if anything, he might be a little more free to, like, really do some things, right?
Well,
So instead of kind of relying on what Tyreek might need to do best to get him the
well,
ball, right?
I think you said it. But Mahomes is still Mahomes, so I think
Yeah,
that let's not forget that.
yeah. Like, let's not forget
Yeah,
that.
let's not forget
So,
he's
as
still
long as he
and he's
doesn't get hurt, like Mahomes, and I personally, like I said, I personally think with this team, he might end up. He doesn't have Tyreek Hill, but I think it might actually end up pushing him to just really do some crazy stuff. Now, after that, now we got to talk about Devontae Adams,
oh.
which is probably the best wideout in this division.
I mean,
Well,
if
yeah,
Russell Wilson was the best move, the biggest move because he is the
yeah,
quarterback, but
yeah.
Devontae Adams is pretty darn close.
Yes, exactly. Devontae Adams is pretty darn close. You're right, my man. So, like, we gotta at least touch light on that. And he
Of
definitely
course,
is
yeah.
a huge, huge upgrade, for the Raiders, for Derek Carr. Just to, like, really amplify the offense. We already saw. The one thing we always got to remember is, we've seen Devontae Adams play with a world class quarterback, right? And I'm not saying that Derek Carr isn't. I mean, he's not Aaron Rodgers, right?
I mean,
But
I don't think that's an understatement. Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
he's
yeah.
still not that bad. And then with Devontae Adams, Renfro as a good possession wideout, and then you have Darren Waller. There's some options on the floor, or on the floor, but on the field, that really still makes it not easy, but still attainable for Devontae Adams to be just as successful on Las Vegas,
Las
right?
Vegas, yeah.
So yeah, I'm still getting used to that.
Mhm.
So I personally, have to at least touch light on Devontae Adams, because I really think he's gonna have a big year over there. I think he's exactly what the Raiders needed. Like, I think there's a lot of energy in terms of, like, that move, where, like, a lot is just gonna happen for that franchise. Just me personally. And then, then we got to talk about the Chargers and Justin Herbert. Like, so this is where, this division is just crazy, because Justin
Well,
Herbert, again, another quarterback in their third year, right? This is
yeah,
Herbert's third year, right?
I believe
Can't
so. Yeah, third year. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't forget that about some of these especially quarterbacks. Like they are going to the third year, and we already seen Herbert do some great things. So we'd only expect him to improve on that. And he still
Oh,
pretty much has just about the same team.
the one move that I believe they made was Khalil Mack
Yeah, I was gonna
on
say
defense. Yeah.
defensively, it was a defensive
So
move.
I think, yeah,
Yeah,
we're talking about all the other big names, Russell Wilson and Devontae Adams, coming big offensive players. But the Chargers said, we need defense and put
yeah,
him with Bosa.
yeah. I was just gonna
I
say they
mean,
got
yeah,
him and Bosa together,
yeah.
and
So that's going to be. I mean, they improved their defense, and they have, you know, guy like Eckler in the backfield, and Keenan Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. So they've got, and Justin Herbert. It's only going to get better and better.
yeah.
So I mean, this team, look out for this team as well. I mean, they're going to be a very, very dangerous team on the offense side of football, and with their addition on defense, oh, that's a scary team. That those Los Angeles, they may be the ones. Maybe we get an LA Super Bowl. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah,
I I would yeah, you never know. And then as we assess and talk about everything, and as you mentioned defense, if I could, I don't know if I could really put them in an order, right? I
yeah.
really don't know. But one thing I know I said earlier is I still think if I could just make a prediction, I still think the Chiefs should win this division. And I guess if I had to pick a team that might end up being in the bottom of the division, it probably might end up being the Raiders. Probably. I mean, if it's either going to be maybe the Raiders or the Chargers, and even still, if they're the bottom of the division, probably still going to make the playoffs. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so let's not discredit whichever team that is. That I just want people who are listening to understand that like this division is stacked.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can. I mean, don't just take our word for it. Like every single network, ESPN, NFL Network, Fox, everybody's telling you this is going to be one of the greatest divisions. You're going to see a lot of late primetime games being flexed in with this division. That's how good it's going to be. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yep.
so I think but you said it. Prediction time. I think it's time for us to predict.
Okay.
So, would you like to go first, or shall I go first?
So we're just predicting each winner of each division.
So, okay. So,
Mm,
give me. Okay, we'll start in the NFC.
okay.
Okay,
NFC. Okay.
yeah. So, give me your 7 playoff teams if you want to go first, or if you want me to go first. It's up to you. I'll give you.
Mm.
Do you want
It's
the
it's
ball in the
7. I thought it
first
was
half?
6.
No, 7. There's 7 playoff teams.
Oh yeah, you're right. They did it. They
Yeah.
did add one more.
So, coin flip. I'll give you the coin flip. Do you want the ball in the first half or the second half?
Nah,
Do you want to defer?
I could. I'll yeah. You know what? I'll defer.
Okay,
I'll
so
go.
I
I'll
will.
make my pick second.
Okay, so I will start first in the NFC. Okay,
Cool.
so top team for me, I'm taking the number one seed. I'm going with the Green Bay Packers. I think they're going to be. I think that division is going to be very, very. It's going to be a seesaw battle between them and the Vikings. But I think Green Bay, Minnesota, for me, I've just watched them so much to the point where they're one of those teams that I find always finds a way to lose a game, and I think that's why Green Bay. I think we're only going to have like a 1 game difference, so I don't think Green Bay is gonna blow away with the division, but I think Green Bay will be the top seed in the NFC. Number 2 seed, I'm going with Tampa Bay. Um, yeah, there's just they still once Tom Brady's not there anymore, I'll pick someone else, but Tom Brady's there, so he's the difference maker in that division. I do like what New Orleans is gonna do, especially with Kamara. He's gonna looks like he's gonna be there for week one. Michael Thomas as well, if he's gonna gain
Yeah, they
back
said
his
they said
form.
Thomas is gonna play.
Yeah. So, Jameis is going to be, Jameis, if he can figure out how not to throw interceptions, then, and I know that's easier said than done, but I think once Tom Brady leaves, then New Orleans will probably grab the division back, but I still think Tampa Bay has it. So Tampa Bay is going to be my 2 seed. 3 seed, I'm going with the Rams. Despite what happened on Thursday night, I think they're going to figure it out,
Hmm?
and I think they're going to win the NFC West. And then the 4 seed, give me the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they've done a lot. They probably were the most improved team in the NFC East. So I think they're gonna, and they made the playoffs last year. So they
Mm-hmm.
improved on a playoff team already. So give me those are my four divisional winners, my three wild card teams. Okay, five seed. I'm kind of surprised to say this, but I think this team has been flying under the radar. This has been flying under the radar this off season. That's the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm going to put the Dallas Cowboys at five. And yeah, you really haven't much heard from Dallas. Heard much from Dallas. So Dallas is going to be my five seed. My six seed, the Minnesota Vikings. I think that they're going to, they're going to be in the divisional race, but at the end, I think they're just one of those teams for me that always figures out a way to lose big games in tight spots. They lose on a field goal late. Yeah, so I'm going to put Minnesota at six. And my seventh and final playoff team. A lot of deliberation here. You know, I'm really torn on this. Do I go San Francisco? Do I go Arizona? Counting those teams, and then I'm just saying I gotta go with the San Francisco 49ers at seven. I think defensively, I think if they get Trey Lance and he figures it out, I mean that team is going to be a team not only to watch this year, but I think a team that you're going to watch for years to come because I think Trey Lance is that talented. So
Okay.
those are my seven playoff teams in the NFC. And quickly, just to so that would set up a 2-7 matchup with Tampa Bay and San Francisco. I think Tampa Bay wins that game. My 3-6 would be LA and Minnesota. So give me the Rams to win that game. And the 4-5 game would be Dallas and Philly. And I'm taking Philly to lose that game. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys to win their first playoff game in I don't know how many decades, but the Dallas Cowboys are going to win that game. And they're going to be headed to Green Bay in the next round. And the 2-3 game would be Tampa Bay and LA setting up a rematch from last year. And give me Tampa Bay winning that game. I think Tom Brady, maybe his last year, because if you heard some things through his about what was going on with his marriage, I think
A
this
little
may be
bit.
his last year. Yeah, so Tom Brady's not going to go down. He's going to go down without. He's not going to go down without a fight, and I think he's going to take down the. Almost took them down last year. Falling down big, and then his defense just couldn't stop Cooper Cup. But I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Green Bay Packers will play for the NFC, and I gotta go. It's a tough one because I do think Brady's gonna have a big year, but I'm not sold. Like Green Bay always finds a way to lose in these championship games, and I think they find a way to lose in this championship game as well. So give me out of the NFC the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now
Okay.
AFC AFC very tough. I think for me number one after watching that Thursday night game, Buffalo Buffalo may win like 13, 14 games. They're that good. So give me the Buffalo Bills at the one seed. And I've been talking about, you know, big star free agents in their walk years. Well, this is Lamar's walk year, and Lamar's gonna have a big season as well. And I'm putting the Baltimore Ravens to be the two seed. Three seed, give me the champions of the AFC West. Give me the Denver Broncos. I think the Broncos will win the division. And at four, give me who did I? Oh, the Indianapolis Colts. I think they're going to win that division. Now my five seed, tough one, but I don't think I think Kansas City will you will get that five seed, and I think the Los Angeles Chargers will get the six seed. And my 17, the last team I'm putting into these AFC playoffs will be the Cincinnati Bengals. I think but they are improved, but I think Baltimore is just going to be that much better than them. So setting up a 2-7 game Baltimore Cincinnati. Give me Baltimore in that game. 3-6 would be who did I say was going to win? Oh, the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers. I look at the Chargers as one of those teams that gets in, but are a year away from making any noise in the playoffs. So give me the Russell Wilson led Denver Broncos, and
Hmm.
the 4-5 game would be the the Indianapolis Colts and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
I know You're probably saying, "Oh, well, Kansas City." No, give me Indianapolis. Indianapolis is my upset pick. I
All
think
right.
Indianapolis wins that game at home. So setting up a 1-4 game Buffalo Indianapolis. I think Buffalo is just going to blow through Buffalo, and then the 2-3 would be Baltimore and Denver. That game's going to be in Baltimore. Give me Baltimore in that game. I'm going to take Baltimore and my man Lamar Jackson. I really think can't say it enough. He's going to have a big year. He's probably going to rush for like maybe 1,200 yards. That's how good I think he's going to be. Um, then the championship game will be Buffalo and Baltimore. Give me Buffalo. I think Buffalo gets to the Super Bowl, so we get a Super Bowl of Buffalo and Tampa Bay. And I think Josh Allen just is going to be too much for Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, and give me the Buffalo Bills in a blowout. I think they're going to put up like 48 points. It's be like 48-21, something like that. But yeah, give me the Buffalo Bills winning the Super Bowl in a blowout.
Mm.
And last pick, my MVP toss up here for me. Is it going to be Josh Allen? Is it going to be Lamar? I think Lamar edges Josh Allen out by like percentage points, but I think Lamar Jackson will be the NFL MVP this year. Okay.
All right.
Okay, Robbie. I'd now turn the mic over to you.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, I mean, I'm glad I deferred because now I get a good like structure of what it is that you really want me to predict here. Now, not that I really didn't understand, but now I really do. So, I guess I'll start with the NFC. Right. We'll start with the NFC first. So, with the NFC, here's how I'll at least start off the structure. Right. With the my winners of the division and my first overall seed, I'm gonna say is actually gonna be Tampa Bay this year, right? They'll win that South Division. Second, would be the winner of the West, and I think it's gonna be the Rams. Third, I'm gonna actually go with the Cowboys in the NFC East to take that division. And then in the North, I'm gonna agree with you there and say that the Packers take that division, but they'll be fourth seed.
Mhm.
Then fifth, first wild card, I'm gonna give that to the Eagles since they didn't win that NFC East. I think that's gonna definitely be tight, tighter than than I probably originally thought. Now that I kind of sit here and look at it all, but I still think I'm gonna give the Cowboys the edge at least on the division, right? So Eagles will get that fifth seed and first wild card, and then six, I have to go with the 49ers. And I was kind of mulling this one like you, I guess, just not necessarily with the 49ers, just with two different teams for this very last spot in the NFC. Uh I even thought about what you said a little bit too about the Vikings. So, and it's tough to say, that they don't make the playoffs, but the team that made me think about it a bit, and I at least want to give them the honorable mention, is the Saints. So,
Yeah.
I personally thought the Saints, or I still think the Saints could be a team that can squeak into the playoffs, where, maybe teams aren't, or, league wide, people just really aren't thinking about it too much. But I'm going to have to go with the Vikings here, at least with that last one, right?
Okay. Okay.
At least wanted to give them that honorable mention because I guarantee you they probably might still slide in, and I want someone to know I mentioned it. So that's one. So now that we got that going and we got the structure, obviously Tampa Bay gets the bye, right? So the 2-7 matchup, obviously I'm gonna give that to the Rams. The 3-6, I'm gonna go and give that, I would say, to the Cowboys. I'm doing this on the fly with you right now.
Yeah.
And then the Packers Eagles is going to be a very interesting one. But I will say I will go with the Eagles on that one, right?
Yeah.
Now, so then that leaves us now with the Tampa Bay
Mhm.
playing the 4-5 matchup, which is the Eagles, right?
Yeah.
Give that to Tampa Bay, straightforward. Not much to really say on that, but I'm just gonna just say that. And when it comes to the Rams and the Cowboys, I do think the Rams do get back to at least the NFC Championship game. we saw this first game. We all kind of touched back on that, but I'm gonna also touch on it just to remind people not to be situational. This is just
Yes, yeah.
one game, right? So
Well,
like
week one.
we just
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna sit here and say they're gonna go 0-17 now.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
so let's not be dramatic, y'all. So right, so I still put them as a top seed. They end up in the NFC Championship game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I this time I'm going to say that Tampa Bay makes it to the Super Bowl, right? So I'll just
Okay.
clear cut there on the NFC.
Tampa Bay out of the NFC.
And
Okay.
Tampa Bay out of the NFC. Um, Now I'm gonna go to the AFC, where I'll be honest, I didn't get to like really fully look down on who I think, but it'll be easy for me to at least say who I think will be number one, at least the first seed, which I really do think it's gonna be the Bills, right?
Yeah.
Then they're gonna, obviously win that AFC East. And then when we come down now to the West, I'll just go to the West because this is gonna be still the toughest division, but I'd rather just get this pick out the way. And I'm gonna pick, as I'm pretty sure you heard me say earlier, but I'm gonna pick the Chiefs to take
Hmm.
that one, and they'll be the second seed, right?
Yeah.
Um, then in the AFC North, I'm gonna pick the Bengals to be the third seed, right?
Yeah.
And take that division. And then for the South, that I'm gonna go straight to the Colts. I'll say the Colts are gonna be a division winner this year, and they'll so then therefore take that fourth over there. But then with the fifth, I will give that to the Ravens, and then the sixth to who? This is where it gets really tough. I'll give the sixth to the Broncos. And then the very last, oh man,
I mean,
why
yeah,
do the playoffs have to be so finite? Because like here, I'm be honest, I'm doing this on the fly, and I'm looking at three teams that can easily go in here, like three teams. So this is really tough, which is basically the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Titans, right? And it's crazy that I could say it's the Titans, but in all honesty, as we're talking about this right now, and let's talk about it, we have to talk about defense. Okay, we have to talk about defense. Yes, there's offensive firepower all around, and especially in this one division, we got to talk about defense. So Titans, unfortunately, yes, they have Derrick Henry, but their defense really isn't that good. Like they're like middle of the pack at best, right?
yeah,
Oh, we got
yeah,
to remember that. So it's tough for me to take them out of the equation, but I don't know if the Titans really do get back maybe in the playoff picture this year with all these teams. Like I really think the Chargers have something to say about that. Like, and the Raiders do too. But I'm gonna have to go with defense here for this very last pick, and I'm gonna just say that the Chargers make it on that seventh spot,
okay.
right?
Hmm.
So now with that structure set, Bills obviously get that bye. So now with that 2-7, unfortunately, even though the Chargers get that spot, they're gonna lose to the Chiefs in the first round, right? And then with the 3-6, that's actually gonna be a really good one. And I'm gonna say that I'm gonna say that the yeah, I'm gonna say that the Bengals go and beat the Broncos in that first matchup. Colts and Ravens, this is where I say Lamar kind of shows up. So as much as I like the Colts and all that, I think the Ravens take that. So that leaves me with the Bills playing the Ravens in that 1 versus 4-5 winner. And then Bills, I will say beat the Ravens, go back to that game, and then we're gonna see the Chiefs beat the Bengals this time. So Bengals, I don't think are gonna make it back to the Super Bowl. I think they'll get to that second round this time, maybe. But the Chiefs still have a lot to say about all that. So now here, this is where I'm gonna, like really differ because as much as I do love the Bills and like I see them as like a favorite in a sense, especially at least in the AFC. And their defense still looks really good. Um, I think Patrick Mahomes has a I don't know, I feel something in my gut about Patrick Mahomes this year, right?
Yeah.
Like just something to I just there's so many players in this league that are electric and good. And what happens is, as I mentioned, even the whole situational talk, it happens even in the people we pay attention to. We forget how great some players are. I'm just gonna say that the Chiefs beat the Bills, even though the Chiefs, as much as we talk about defense, that the Chiefs, their defense is obviously isn't as strong as the Bills. But I'm gonna say at this time, based on my predictions, where I'm going here, I'm gonna say the Chiefs are the ones that end up going to the Super Bowl, right, beating the Bills. So
Okay.
now we have a Super Bowl of the Chiefs versus Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
A rematch. Okay.
Yes, and unfortunately, I think Tom Brady is going to go back to the Super Bowl and lose.
Oh,
so so
okay.
so I think this is gonna be even more of a pusher to maybe have him just say, you know what, maybe I'm gonna stop. So I think the Chiefs are gonna reign again. That is my prediction, and my MVP is Mahomes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I took Buffalo over Tampa. So we both took Tampa, but you
Hmm.
took Buffalo. I took Buffalo out of the AFC. You have Kansas City,
Hmm.
and I think Buffalo wins Super Bowl in a blowout. You take Kansas City to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And MVPs, I'm going Lamar. You go Patrick Mahomes. So there you have it.
Hmm.
There is your 2022, excuse me, season breakdown. Because I'm still thinking about Deshaun next year. No, 2022 season breakdown, and of course, right before the playoffs start. Um, well, so we'll be doing this weekly, where we just kind of like have a little chat about the games that went on over the past weekend, and then we'll little preview of what's gonna games that stick out to us in the upcoming week. So that'll be weekly. So that'll be a lot of fun. You'll get to hear us more,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
might be on a different platform at some point. So stay tuned for that.
Indeed, indeed. Please pay
And
attention. We're definitely looking to make this bigger and bigger.
yeah, and then of course, right before the playoffs start, we'll do like a review of what we did here and see how great we were or how terribly we did.
Hmm.
So you never know, because there's always going to be that one team that surprises everyone, and no one knows, no on nobody's radar, and they're the team that all of a sudden, oh, they're a playoff team and they're making some noise. So this is just based on what we see right now, but injuries play such a big part. So many things can happen in a football
Indeed.
season. COVID. So
Injuries is the
yeah,
biggest thing, man.
yeah,
Healthiest team, healthiest best team
exactly.
is who makes it.
So,
Uh,
so yeah, so for that, I hope you enjoyed this one, and you'll catch us next week, actually, after week one, and we'll be reviewing the first week of games that went on and what games stood out to us and who did well. So I hope you enjoy that. Look forward to that. And for myself and Rabindra, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.